Hello, welcome back to Advanced Composition with Professor Kent Lee. We're going to talk in this segment about statements of purpose. A statement of purpose, or SOP, is sort of a short personal essay, formal personal statement for applying for graduate school. So you're applying for graduate school, perhaps, a master's, PhD program, and they ask you to write a statement of purpose. What do you put in it? What kind of stuff do you talk about? You're explaining why you're applying and why they should accept you. What do you say? Think for a minute. What do you think? All right, in the book, we're in section 12.5, I think. Yes, 12.5, I believe. Look at my example, 12.5.7. This is what I used to apply for a PhD program one time. What stuff do you see here? What elements do you see? By the way, this was a successful one, of course, so you can look at this as an example. What kind of elements do you see? What is the writer doing? Okay, to begin with, intellectual and academic background. To give kind of a simpler example, when I first applied for a master's program in linguistics, I wish I had it. It was kind of nice. I lost it. It was in the 1990s, a long time ago, and I guess I had it on a kind of a very old digital storage medium, which you might not be familiar with, called floppy disks. I think I lost it. I wish I had it. But basically, when I first applied to graduate school, for my intellectual and academic background and reasons for interest in the program, I talked about how in college I studied different foreign languages, and that got me into linguistics, partly because I was just interested in language and partly to help me learn languages. And I spent a study abroad year in Germany and traveled to other European countries, and I was fascinated by all the language communities. Travel a few hours, get off the train, and you're in a different language community, different language zone, different country perhaps. And I was really fascinated by this, and that got me more into learning about language history and the sound structure of languages. And so when I applied, I said I wanted to do comparative historical linguistics, learning about language relationships and language families. So in this example you have in the book, this is later, and I'm applying to PhD. So again, I talk about my intellectual background and how my interests have evolved, how I moved from one thing to another, but in a logical direction so that it's relevant to why am I applying for this PhD in educational psychology. And I identify a particular research area I want to do in educational psychology. And this is why. This is where my intellectual interests, my linguistic interests kind of evolved and went in a logical direction to what I want to do now. So your intellectual and academic background. And along with that, intellectual and academic strengths and accomplishments, qualifications. What are your strengths? So here I kind of highlighted my expertise in different linguistic theories, linguistic skills, and particularly education and applied linguistics. My interest and expertise in linguistics and applied linguistics is kind of highlighted here. And particularly some of my accomplishments, my past research while in graduate school, my research in linguistics and my research in English education. So I highlight the research that I did also, highlighting qualifications. Reasons for applying to the university and reasons for applying to the program. Why are you applying to the university? Is it because your boyfriend or girlfriend is studying there? That's not a good reason. What reasons do you say? What reasons do you talk about? Well, for the university, you could talk about the university. Maybe it's their something about their location is maybe an advantage to your research, or it's their research facilities, their library facilities. So So you talk about either while you're applying to the university and or to the department, especially to the department. That's maybe even more important. Why are you applying to the program? And again, it might be the research facilities in that program. But particularly you want to show that you know something about the program you're applying to. Just like if you're applying for a company job, you want to show that you know something about the company. I know about your marketing strategies, and I know about your workplace environment. I know about your branding. I know about your strengths and weaknesses in marketing, and things like that. So for a university program, you're probably going to talk about the department. What are its strengths? Your department is known for this kind of particular kind of research that I like. Your department is known for its work in historical comparative linguistics, where your department is known for its applied linguistics research. And especially if you mention a name, I know Professor so-and-so or Professor Smith and Professor Joan, and they do really interesting work here in applied linguistics and English education, and I want to work with them. I'm interested in the work that they do. And that's helpful for two reasons. One is so that they can assign you an advisor. So when you first get there, they want to assign you an advisor, at least an initial advisor. You can change your advisors later if your interests change or if you find a professor who actually suits your interests. And that's actually okay in the North American system. You can change your advisors. There's no problem. They might just assign you, if they're not sure where you want to go, what you want to do, they might just assign you to just a default advisor and say, okay, you need to pick a regular advisor in your first year. Decide what you want to do and pick a regular advisor, or your interests change and you want to move to a different advisor. And that's actually no problem in the North American system. So assigning you a professor to work with, maybe a teaching or research assistantship, research job or something to help pay for your studies too. But the other reason is, of course, and you probably also want to indicate your research specialization. What are your research interests? Because that's a key thing in applying to a graduate school program. What are your research interests? So you need to identify at least a research area. If it's your first time, like in my case, I was just out of college, applying to a first master's PhD program. I just said historical comparative linguistics. Later, my interest changed to phonology, and that's actually fine. But what they want is at least you are focused enough that you can identify a research area. Like I say, I wanted to do historical comparative linguistics, and this is why. And this is what I want to do with that research focus, why I'm interested in it. So they want to see somebody who has focus. They can articulate what they want to do. It's okay if your interests change. They know that people's interests change once they get into the program. That's not unusual. But they're looking for the type of person who has focus, not somebody who says, oh, I just like linguistics. I like all of it. I like everything. I don't know what I like. It's all cool. I don't know. Or I just like linguistics. I'm not sure what it is, but it sounds cool. That sounds really unfocused. They're looking for the type of person who is focused. Even if their interests can change, they're looking for that intellectual focus, evidence of intellectual focus. I'm interested in this for this reason. And this is kind of what I want to do. I want to look at maybe kind of interested in maybe this area of language comparison or reconstructing or language history in this particular area maybe. Now for a PhD, the expectations are a little more specific. Your first time application, say historical comparative linguistics, or I want to do phonology, or I want to do, if you're in literature, I want to look at this particular poet and her work, her poetry, particular things she does with her poetry. Now for a PhD, especially if you've got a master's and you're applying for a PhD, and actually in the American system, again, it's no problem to move from one program to another. I moved from a master's in linguistics to master's in kind of English education, or teaching English as a second language. And then in that department, there was no PhD. So for the PhD, I moved to educational psychology, to focus on language issues. And sometimes people move to a different school. do a master's in one school and they want to move to another school for various reasons for the PhD. So you're applying for a PhD program from a master's, you're coming from a master's and applying to a different PhD program, they're going to expect that you have a more specific interest, basically like a PhD topic. What's the topic of your PhD research going to be? And again, they're looking for somebody who has focus. It might change a bit, that's okay, but they're looking for a person who can articulate a particular focus, a PhD topic, a topic for your PhD dissertation, your thesis work. Like I want to do eye tracking on the ends of English sentences, or I want to do reading and visual processing of the different components of Chinese characters, something specific like that. Emily Bishop's use of a particular kind of metaphor in her poetry and why she uses it based on her life history or something like that. So they're looking for that kind of focus. They are also expecting some idea of your future plans. It's not going to be good if you say, I want to get this and then go into a totally different, unrelated job or business field. You're going to be a professor in that field or a professional in a related field, something related. So future plans, you don't want to say, I just want to be use this and to be a private tutor or teach in high school. If you're getting a PhD, why do you want to teach in high school? Or want to be, a housewife or independent blogger? No. They're investing, if they choose you, they're investing a lot of time and money into you. They want to know that their investment is going to be worthwhile. That the time they spend training you is not going to be wasted. And again, your plans can change, and that's okay. Again, too many people think, oh, I'm going to be a professor. There are professorship jobs or academic jobs for about 20% of people who get PhDs. So it's important to be realistic. I mean, there are some departments where they aren't very realistic about this, and they think, oh, they're just training their PhD students to be professors. That's more of a problem in humanities departments, where the professors are too focused on training their students to get academic jobs when there aren't academic jobs out there for most of them. A lot of PhD students do go into industry. Now, in certain fields like engineering, it's just accepted. They know. I mean, the professors probably know that most of their graduates are going to get jobs in companies, high-paying research jobs in companies. So I should have done a PhD in engineering. Anyway, so they know that chemistry, engineering, it's normal. But in other fields, it's maybe less common to say this in an SOP. So maybe you have to be careful here. Maybe the professors may not so open to non-academic jobs, but you yourself, if you're going for PhD or master's, do consider for yourself, be open-minded to non-academic jobs. There aren't many academic jobs out there, especially in this economy. So as you're finishing your master's degree or PhD, do think about how you can transition. Think about the skills you've learned, your research skills and analytical skills you've learned, and how that might be beneficial in a different field, like in a company job, international companies especially, or a research job, a government position, or in a government or research institute, an NGO. Do consider that for your future plans, but nonetheless, think of something specific that you can honestly say. I mean, don't lie, don't make up anything, but be honest, but have specific future plans or possible plans in mind for your SOP. So areas to avoid are listed in the book. When you're talking about your background, avoid mundane examples. It should be interesting and unique. It should say something about you and your intellectual growth and development, your intellectual interests, your research interests, or your research-related or scholarly skills and qualifications for the program that are relevant to the department and program. Just like in a cover letter, don't say anything kind of, cliche. I promise I'll work really hard. Nah, it's not convincing. anything vague or uninformative. I want to do English linguistics because English is so important today. Well, yeah, anybody knows it's important, but I mean, what's your research interest? What's your research motivation or your intellectual motivation? Avoid anything really vague, like, oh, English is really important and English is really hard for Koreans and Japanese. Avoid anything controversial. So, for example, some fields like linguistics, there's controversy between different competing theories. There's Chomskyan linguistics, and there's kind of semi or quasi-Chomskyan, where they like some of Chomsky's ideas, but they take a very different approach. And then there are like functional linguists and applied linguists, and sometimes they have really different, they have conflicts because they just have different ways of approaching language and linguistics. So especially in a field where there are competing theories or paradigms or ideas, be careful in your SOP. Don't commit yourself too much to one particular paradigm or theory. If you know that the department, some people in the department might have different views, just because that's how the field is. So especially in linguistics and other fields. Details of your life before college, usually not important. Just listing accomplishments, no. Say something about how you've grown or how you developed interest in something interesting. Grammar mistakes, proofread it carefully. Have someone else proofread it for you. Customize it to the particular school. Okay. So find out about the school, find out about their faculty, what their faculty do, customize your SOP to it. And of course, be sincere, be honest in whatever you say. Length limit. Sometimes they, especially for business schools, they'll give you some questions to answer anyway, essay style questions, so it's not really an SOP. Otherwise, it's kind of free form, but they might specify a word limit. From their website, they say an SOP of not more than 400, 500 words. Pay attention to those limits. If there are no limits, then what you see in my example in the book, about 1.5 pages, single space, that's about it. Shouldn't be much longer than that. About 1.5 pages if single space. And a single space block paragraph format like that, because it's kind of a hybrid business writing, personal statement, academic document. So it's using kind of business style paragraphs, block style paragraphs, no indentation, one line space between paragraphs. But that's about the standard length, about 1.5 pages, not much more, not too much less. If it's less than 1 page, that's too short. It doesn't say much about you. It doesn't show that you're a very thoughtful person or maybe not really ready yet for this kind of thing. And avoid cliches, avoid cliche words. There's some listed in the book, overused words, unless you can make it specific. I enjoyed learning languages, okay, but that's a little vague or common. It doesn't sound very academic. I enjoy analyzing the sound structure of languages. That's a bit better. I enjoy how learning languages and finding how one language transfers to learning another language. Okay, so avoid just saying, "Oh, this is rewarding." No, don't say that unless you can say something really specific and unique. I find phonological systems of language to be intellectually rewarding. That's better. All right, so any questions, post some comments. I think from now on, some of my videos are going to be shorter because I want you to focus on your work, on your essay assignments. So next time, maybe I will talk a little bit about some other kinds of documents that you might do, academic context especially. And then we're going to start into grammar and style issues again. And that's probably how we will finish the semester. I'll see you later. Bye.